Hey guys, welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, and let's get stuck into doing this investigation.
Through the stars.
Well, let's have a chat with the Gaprats first. The lords and ladies sumptuously dressed in the colours of House Gaprak are standing in a half circle around Toriana and her son Vicent. The bodies and faces of almost every member of this dynasty are covered in large ornate augmetics. Toriana Gaprak curtsies to you. Her mechanical voice sounds distant and indifferent. Greetings, your lordship. May the Omnissiah grant you understanding. With a click, her visor oculus swiveled to Seneschal. Abelard, it must be difficult for you to be here under these circumstances, with our house standing accused of such a grave crime. My family, Lady Toriana, is yet to be found guilty of anything. That verdict is for the rogue trader to reach. Do you think the accusations against the Versarian family are true? I would not take such a responsibility upon myself and rule on their guilt, your lordship. I do think Governor Drivestem's accusations are worthy of consideration, however. I've examined the bodies of the assailants that were killed today. All of them were high-functioning servitors. Such servitors are only employed by families close to the Adeptus Mechanicus, isn't that so? It is impossible to read Toriana's emotions in her heavily augmented face, but her sudden turn toward her family betrays her confusion and surprise. Perplexed whispers bounce from one family member to another. Impossible. We came here by ourselves, without any servitors. We know nothing about it. Your lordship, thank you for informing us of this. You are absolutely right. My house has indeed been endowed with high-functioning servitors, a blessing for those who revere the Omnissiah, but today none of our house members were accompanied by them. In your opinion, which nobles might have a reason to be party to such a conspiracy? Pardon my bluntness, your lordship, but I will answer truthfully. It could be anyone. Greed, fear, and ideals can drive even the most loyal subjects to do the unthinkable. I found this note on the bodies of one of the attackers. What are your thoughts on it? Officially, high-functioning servitors are employed by my house and my house alone. If such units were to attack the road trader, suspicion would instantly fall upon the Gaprats. I assume that this is what the Versarians intended to happen, but they did not expect that the servitors would have this letter on them. Vicent, I wish to speak to you. Ready to serve, your lordship. How may I help you? What do you make of the charges against the Versarian family? Could they truly be guilty? I do not think I can doubt the validity of the accusations, but... Vicent's voice trails off and he seems to retreat into himself for a moment. Before continuing, he takes a deep breath. I am also not sure that House Versarian had a reason to betray you, your lordship. I do not know of any instance where their loyalty to you and the Emperor was anything less than unwavering. I know you care for Astasia Versarian. Are you prepared to watch her die? Vicent's jaw augmetic screeches slightly. The young man scrutinizes his mother and other family members for a few moments. There is something you ought to know, your lordship. Today I noticed one of my family members to be in an odd, uncharacteristic mood. Halen Gaprak is my paternal second cousin once removed. May the Emperor save his soul. Usually reserved and self-possessed, today he was frantic and anxious, fidgeting with a small piece of paper and seemingly looking for someone to no avail. When I last saw him, he was headed to the entrance hall where the altars are. Perhaps you should talk to him. That will do. Vicent inclines his head in a respectful bow. I shall take my leave, okay? Where is this other guy? See, hang on, let's review the conversation. When I last saw him, he was headed to the entrance hall where the altars are. Okay. Where are the altars? Gallon Gaprak? Is that the guy? I don't know if these are altars, but... Finely dressed man of middle years is kneeling in front of the altar, his palms folded in prayer close to his face. The implant-free parts of his skin are a sickly blue color. The nobleman does not react to your presence. He does not lift his head. He does not blink. He does not even breathe. Only when you draw closer do you realize that he's dead. Abelard looks at the man, his eyes grim. The colors of House Gaprak. I do not believe he decided to take his own life in such an extravagant way. As far as I know, there is a warden post here, but I do not see any wardens. There is no one to ask about what happened here or with whom this man spoke before he died. I would like to ask Urban where the palace guard suddenly disappeared to. Examine the body. Closely examine the body. You cannot identify any wounds or any other obvious causes of death. Okay. Pascal's visor emits a series of clicks. He points to the dead man's neck without hesitation. I'm registering an injection site. There are no visible wounds on the body, but near the edge of the gold-trimmed collar you notice a tiny puncture in his blue skin, likely a wound caused by a thin needle. Try to determine the cause of death. Death came for him suddenly and ravaged his body with cramping spasms that prevented him from falling to the ground. Some rare poisons have such side effects. The affected victim suffocates slowly without being able to move or call for help. Search the pockets. You discover a secret pocket inside the lining of the dead man's luxurious jacket. You find a folded piece of paper inside, hiding behind a handkerchief embroidered with the initials HG, short note. Make sure that the rogue traitor is attacked by someone loyal. It should appear as if it was all staged to let the Viserion family escape. This is the last assignment. Soon your debt will be paid off in full. Look around. You are almost certain that wardens are usually stationed nearby, but their post is empty. Where have they gone? This would be an excellent question to put to Governor Drivestem.
This
Okay, so
augment is not fit for a servitor.
That is very interesting. Let's see what the Gapraks have to say, if anything. Okay. Same thing as before. I discovered a dead body, a member of your house, right here in my palace. He died kneeling in prayer. Toriana covers her open mouth with her hand in surprise and turning to her family looks for someone among them. Halen, it can't be. Halen, was it? Tell me about him, Toriana. Halen is one of the lower ranking members of House Gaprak. Despite his advanced age, he never held high office, but he was forever striving to better his position, even beyond his abilities. Many members of my house struggled to cope with the misfortune that befell Kiava Gamma and our family. Some members could not reconcile themselves to our new position. Halen was one of them. What could have happened to him? Toriana's visor oculars are fixed on the floor, her fingers restlessly clenching in the fabric of her dress. Toriana, the time to keep silent is long gone. The future of the Von Valancia's trade dynasty and your house are both at stake now. We lost Kiava Gamma, a truly devastating blow to every member of House Gaprak. I lost all hope for the future and my kin lost their sense of purpose. We needed time to recover and chart a new course for ourselves. We were and still are more than capable of doing that, but I will not deny it. The other houses have offered us their assistance for their own self-serving ends. Perhaps Halen decided to take them up on one of their offers behind my back. The Seneschal bows ever so slightly and speaks quietly so that only you can hear him. Lord Captain, the Gapraks, all or perhaps only some of them, are definitely involved. But I suspect they were not behind the plot against you. Halen Gaprak could be nothing more than a puppet in the hands of a deaf puppet master. We must expose whoever that is if we are to prevent the pestilence of heresy from spreading any further. What do you suggest we do? Interrogate the heads of the Drivestem and Sourback houses. One of them has been pulling the strings here. Once we uncover new evidence, announce that the guilty party will be publicly executed. Before you pronounce the verdict, I suggest focusing on each house in your indictment speech, and I shall observe them. I have known those people far longer than you have. I know all their gestures, habits, and behavioral quirks. I am sure that I will be able to determine which of them was responsible for the riots based on their behavior. Okay. Damn. I don't get to choose the I found that note option. Seems not. Okay. Alright, well, let's save it here. I don't know if that changes too much, but I think that's already what we know. What? Clementia Viserion is over here. Okay, so let's talk to her. As you draw closer, the wardens step aside, bowing respectfully, allowing you to approach the Viserion family. Clementia, tired and slightly disheveled, is the first to bow her head to you in deference. Several men and women behind her follow suit. Your lordship, accept my most humble apologies for failing to greet you properly, and my thanks for agreeing to speak to me before making your final decision. The charges brought by the governor are severe, but I can only assure you of this and swear on my own honor, we are not guilty of the crimes that House Viserion is being accused of. Clementia, a hint of sorrow creeps into Abelard's voice, belying his stern facade. You were acting head of this family. You were supposed to take care of each and every family member, and now you are being accused of treason and collusion against the rogue trader, and the entire family is facing death. How could you let this happen? Are you truly guilty? Be honest. I will not tolerate lies. Clementia, if you know that a member of your family is guilty of the crimes you are being accused of... Abelard, it is your family too, you know. My apologies. I should not lose my composure. No member of House Viserion is involved in a conspiracy against his lordship. Honor and loyalty are not something we take lightly, and we know whom we serve. The governor claims you forged documents in the administratum. The fleet is the primary remit of House Viserion. It is our responsibility. Logistics and supply routes are another area of our responsibility. We have no direct influence on the inner workings of the Adeptus Administratum. The first large-scale deliveries were cancelled after quantities of food were miscalculated by clerks in the Administratum. Then we were faced with incorrect weather data and a meager fuel budget. It was clear that the cause of all these problems was the calculations performed in the Administratum in one way or another, but no matter how many times we asked, we could not ever obtain any clarification on the matter. I found this letter on one of the bodies of the heretics who planned the attack. What can you tell me about it? While Clementia reads the letter, the Viserions behind her read it over her shoulder. Your lordship, let us be frank, it would be foolish of me to try and orchestrate something like this, knowing how many wardens are patrolling your palace. I would not have let myself or anyone in my family get involved in such a scheme. The attackers were high-functioning servitors, ones that look closer to ordinary humans. Do you know anything about them? Servitors? Is that so? Clementia crosses her arms and furrows her brow deep in thought. I have encountered servitors that were indistinguishable from normal augmetic humans, but only once. They were accompanying several members of House Gapra. If you are not guilty, who is? Who stands to gain from framing you? Anyone, really. Clementia replies with a bitter laugh. The other houses would consider us unworthy of our position, and many would jump at the chance to get rid of us and gain control over what was once our domain, the planet's fleet and logistics at the very least. Lady Theodora chose to grant noble status to House Viserion, but the other houses which have served in the Expanse for millennia did not welcome the decision. It has led to some difficulties. I discovered the body of Halen Gaprak here in this palace. He had this note on him. Do you know anything about it? The younger members of the Viserion family crowd around to examine the note in Clementia's hands. All present are beset with worry and bewilderment. I'm not sure if it is relevant, but perhaps you should know Since the fall of Kiavagama, House Gaprak has been faring poorly, to say the least. They've been looking for ways to enhance their influence and to improve their lot, including asking for help from the other noble houses. They have not approached us, of course. It is shameful to seek help from those you consider your inferiors, you understand. But perhaps the drive stems or the sailbacks can tell you more about this matter. I want to find out what is going on here and who the real mastermind behind all this is. Where should I start? I'm afraid I cannot be of much help. Talk to the representatives of the other houses, eavesdrop on their retinue, and perhaps you will hear something unusual. Okay. So over here is drive stems and the sourbacks are over there. Okay, let's talk to the sourbacks first, but let's save it. Okay. Before bowing, Sourback scrutinizes you with a bitter judgmental look. Your lordship? Hetker Sourback, looking like a younger copy of his father, stands at a slight distance close to his mother. An expensive yet understated dress serves to highlight the dazzling beauty of Macarius's wife, Regina Sourback. Sourback stares at Elliot and revulsion flickers across his face. Look closely at Macarius. Despite Sourback's attempts to suppress his revulsion, the presence of inhumans in your retinue undoubtedly reflects his fervent desire to eliminate the enemies of humanity. Do my companions distress you, Sourback? Sourback's face turns red and he grits his teeth in agitation. Echoes of his bridled rage can be heard in the hoarse tone of his voice. I'm a loyal servant of your dynasty. It is not for me to judge the companions of the road trader. Do you really believe the Viserions are guilty? Certainly. Governor Drivestem possesses proof of their guilt, and they have no means by which to refute it. Even if I were to entertain the idea that the Viserions have been framed, how much longer would their house have lasted anyway, if it is so ill prepared for treachery? He addresses Abelard with a slightly mocking tone. My advice to House Viserion would be not to appeal to the road trader for help, but instead to simply stop, accept their fate, and not make matters worse for themselves. I cannot remember Stooge von Valances seeking your advice on what House Viserion should do in this situation. Pay attention, Macarius. Focus on the road trader's questions. Who apart from the Viserions could have a motive to conspire against me? House Drivestem wishing to expand their clout. House Gaprak, who lost their influence after the Kiavagama incident. Sourback looks back at his family and then turns to you again. House Sourback, whose patriarch is too direct in his communication with the road trader. Anyone could have a reason to conspire against you, and equally they could have none. It is not a question of motive, but of loyalty. Each of your subjects has sworn an oath of loyalty to you, so whose sincerity do you doubt? The assailants sent to the palace were rare, high-functioning servitors. Do you think the Gapraks could be behind the attack? Sourback looks away briefly and replies to you with a curt laugh. I have always thought Toriana too weak to participate in such risky ventures, but it seems I was wrong about her. I discovered a dead body in my palace. A man of House Gaprak was killed while praying to the Emperor. He had this note on him. Do you know anything about it? Macarius looks at the note without taking it from your hands and replies without hesitation. No, I know nothing about this note. Okay.
I have traveled far darker paths.
Let's save it here and then have a chat with the drive stems. Given how the drive stems acted when before we were even officially declared the rogue trader and sworn in, and the first time we actually met Urbend, he did seem a bit shifty, so I guess we'll see what he has to say. Governor Drivestem is surrounded by his retinue, who are all dressed in expensive gowns and finery. The matching colour scheme of their outfits and the striking physical resemblance among them suggests that they all come from one family. Your Lordship, thank you for giving this case your undivided attention. I wish to hear your reasoning again. What makes you think the Viserions are behind the plot against me? As soon as the logistical and economic problems gave rise to the initial rumors, we tried to find the person responsible for spreading the calls for Voigtvir's return. The investigation showed that some of the documents inside the Adeptus Administratum were forgeries. We can thank my son Cornelius for such astute observations. Your Lordship, a slender young man bows to you awkwardly and nervously licks his dry lips. I assure you that my humble person is undeserving of your attention. Cornelius holds a prestigious position at the Administratum Palace, and it was he who discovered the errors leading to the disrupted logistics. It is also thanks to him that we found the perpetrators of the forgeries who admitted to acting on the orders of House Viserion. Tell me more about your son Drivestem. Thank you for your interest, your lordship, but I am not worthy of it. The governor's son bows and stands still as he nervously stares down at the floor. Son, show due respect. Forgive him, your lordship. This is the first time he has had the honor of attracting the attention of the rogue trader. Tell me more about your job, Cornelius. What do you do? I manage the documents and records related to the economy of Dargonis. You probably know how scrupulous the workers of the Adeptus Administratum are. I am afraid that a more detailed explanation of my duties would mirror the administrative processes of the Administratum. Too long and overly detailed. Cornelius tries to look you in the eye, but it is clearly hard for him to do. How did you manage to find the forged documents in the bureaucratic hell that is the Administratum? When compiling reports on last cycle's supply chain, I noticed inaccuracies and discrepancies in the figures. With the help of the other clerks, I managed to find several other documents. Cornelius stammers and swallows noisily. Comprehensive data analysis has shown that the discrepancies were caused by intentional tampering with the data, thus leading to some logistical problems that were practically unsolvable. Father and I have managed to single out the Administratum clerks responsible for tampering with the data. Following a heated interrogation, they confessed that they were following the orders of someone from House Viserion. Everything was supposed to look as though they were the ones suffering losses from the logistical and economic problems. But does House Viserion have access to the Adeptus Administratum? There is no conceivable way they could do all of this in a place where they do not hold any power. Before replying, the governor's son nervously adjusts his expensive frock coat. I think the right amount of money can open any door. Cornelius, what is the true reason for your nervousness? The young man's pupils suddenly dilate. He stands at attention and replies to you in one breath. This is the first time I have spoken face to face with the rogue trader. I'm afraid of saying something wrong or forgetting something important. The governor closely watches his son. His tone changes, now sounding strict and curt. Do you wish to tell the Lord Captain anything else? You are speaking to a rogue trader and my patience is running out. You see the flash of terror in Cornelius's eyes as he stares at your hand on your weapon. He speaks quietly and confusedly without raising his head. Forgive me, your lordship. I can't do it anymore. This lie has gone too far and I can no longer control it. The truth is that all of the logistical problems were caused by a single error in the numbers. My mistake. What? Urban looks genuinely shocked and enraged. When I discovered my mistake, it was almost impossible to restore the supply lines. Then I was approached by someone who said they were a friend. They did not give me their name and I never saw their face. They promised to fix the problem. All I had to do was pretend that the Viserions were responsible for the mistake. And as for the rest of the evidence, they promised to arrange it all and... Urban curls his hands into fists, his knuckles turning white. What have you done? How could you, your lordship? He suddenly turns to you as if trying to shield his son. This is my fault. I trusted my son and have failed you in doing so. I beg you, have mercy. And you call my family's honor into question, Urban. Nevertheless, I harbor no desire to kick a man when he is down. Lord Captain, the confession you have obtained means that House Viserion can now be cleared of all charges. What is this friend that approached you, Cornelius? How did the two of you communicate? by letter. I received a letter out of the blue one day. It was unsigned, but the person writing already knew about my erroneous calculations. They offered to help me cover up my misdeed, and in return I would name the Viserions as the ones who had sabotaged the supply lines. All I had to do was gather together some documents and reports that were listed in one of the letters. That and keep my mouth shut. Urban, your son has found the courage to admit his mistake. I will try and find some compassion for him in my heart. Thank you, your lordship. The governor bows low, then gives his son a look full of bitterness and frustration. And as for your position, I think you will be reassigned to a role requiring less responsibility. What do you make of this letter? I found it on one of the assailants. Governor Drivestem peers closely at the bloodstained paper. It looks like another piece of evidence incriminating House Viserion. Perhaps they truly did intend to kill you, or at least cause a stir to help them escape custody during the confusion that followed. All of the assailants were high-functioning servitors. Such servitors are only employed by families close to Adeptus Mechanicus. High-functioning servitors? Drivestem ponders this, rubbing his chin with his thumb. Such servitors are indeed rare, and the Grapraks do have them in their service, but this could have been done intentionally with an eye to confusing you. Anyone with the desire and sufficient funds can hire them. I found a dead body in my palace. A member of House Gaprak was slain in front of an altar. Do you know anything about it? A member of House Gaprak was killed in the palace, and no one noticed? But how? There are wardens posted at every altar. There was no one near the deceased. The wardens had left their posts. Did you order them to do so? Emperor forbid, your lordship. The governor helplessly throws his hands up in the air as if to signify his powerlessness. Your negligence is stunning, Urban. An assassination attempt followed by a mysterious death. And yet here you are, oblivious to everything. The rogue trader can justly accuse you of allowing a noble to be killed in the palace and of failing to notice it. It may be so, but it is for the rogue trader to accuse me of negligence, not you. The governor addresses you once more. Your lordship, accept my deepest apologies for my imprudence. Nothing matters more to me than my honor. I shall send the servants to deal with all this immediately. Did you see Macarius Sauerbach today before I arrived? Macarius? I did not see him myself, but perhaps... Have any of you seen him today? The nobles talk quietly among themselves, and then a middle-aged woman with a tall, extravagant hairstyle replies to you. I think my sister and I saw him sitting on the bench some distance away from the palace's entrance. We think he was accompanied by a gentleman, but forgive us, your lordship, we could not make out his face. Lead me to that place. Of course, consider it done. I thought it was going to be outside of the palace, not in here. I saw Lord Sauerbach conversing with someone here, your lordship. Okay. I recognize this bouquet. House Sauerbach usually serves this wine. Okay. Let's save it here, and let's talk to Sauerbach. Drivestem actually does look surprised about the lies his son told, so there's that. Okay, nothing here. Leave. I don't know what that Sauerbach usually serves this wine means. How may I serve you, your lordship? Are you ready to pronounce your verdict yet? Okay, hang on. Let's save it here. And... well, actually, now that we've basically solved it, well, we know who... well, we know that the Viserions didn't do it, and Cornelius was asked or paid off to lie about it, but let's have a chat with everyone else to see if they have anything else to say. Okay, it doesn't look like They do. The Soulbacks don't have anything else to say either. What about the Viserians? Okay, nothing. Alright, well. In that case, I guess we're about to hand down the verdict. We will save it here. We might follow what Abelard suggested, where we would announce that people will be executed, and then Abelard will have a look at their reactions and see how that goes. So I guess we'll be doing that. So let's get things going then. Okay, summon everyone. I'm ready to pronounce my verdict. Understood, your lordship. Allow me to prepare everything. Many faces are watching you, each and everyone awaiting the rogue trader's verdict with bated breath. The charges brought by Governor Drivestem were fabricated. House Viserion had nothing to do with the orchestration of the riots or the plot targeting the rogue trader. However, the real perpetrators are here in this very room. The seneschal nods to you as if urging you to continue, then shifts his piercing gaze to the crowd before you. Okay. A lot of options here. Awareness. Are they all 100%? Okay. Urban Drivestem, you have exhibited inexcusable negligence by failing to question the possible involvement of any other family besides the Viserions. We have discovered that the attempt on my life was orchestrated by a member of House Gaprak. Urban Drivestem, you have accused House Viserion of violations that were in truth the result of a grave error committed by your son. Toriana Gaprak, a member of your family, orchestrated an assassination attempt against me here in my own palace, and though he has already been found dead, his act is reason enough to forever brand your house as traitors. Macarius Sourback, your overt contempt toward me is reason enough to that's not very good. I know that House Sourback offered their help to the Gapraks, and the late Halen Gaprak seemed to have accepted the offer. I suspect that you are responsible for his death as well. Okay. Urban Drivestem, you have accused House Viserion of violations that were in truth the result of a grave error committed by your son. Let's go with that. The governor closes his eyes, fear and shame getting the better of him. Some faces in the crowd look confused and surprised, but you see more wearing expressions of self-satisfied contempt. Abelard looks from the governor to you and subtly shakes his head as if to say, no, it is not Drivestem pulling the strings here. Okay? Okay, so we can do that. Do we want to go down this path? Toriana Gaprak, a member of your family, orchestrated an assassination attempt against me here in my own palace, and though he has already been found dead, his act is reason enough to forever brand your house as traitors. Mocking whispers creep through the crowd. Toriana is trembling faintly. She still does not raise her head, perhaps out of fear of meeting her fate face to face. The seneschal's hard gaze softens. An elusive gesture visible only to you conveys the message. Toriana Gaprak is guilty only of her own poor judgment. I know that House Sourback offered their help to the Gapraks, and the late Halen Gaprak seemed to have accepted the offer. I suspect you are responsible for his death as well. Sourback furrows his brows and slightly cocks his head. He averts his gaze for the first time, as if trying to remember or make sense of something. You notice some restless movements behind him. Abelard narrows his eyes and scrutinizes Macarius Sourback and his retinue standing behind him. His sharp eyes light up when he catches sight of something important and hidden in the crowd. The seneschal looks at you and nods as if to say the puppeteer has given himself away. Pronounce the verdict. In the conspiracy against the rogue trader, I find the air in the room is frozen with a tense almost electrified silence. All the nobles, some with fear and others with reverent anticipation, await your verdict. House Sauerbach guilty. Seneschal, you may take it from here. Abelard steps forward and stares intently at House Sauerbach's patriarch, Macarius. I must admit, I've always admired your bluntness, but just as I once had to say goodbye to a promotion because of my dislike for intrigue, you and your family might soon say goodbye to your heads. Tell me now, in your blunt fashion, are you loyal to House von Valancius? Sauerbach narrows his eyes, grimacing. I am loyal, Viserion. Abelard studies Sauerbach, then suddenly nods. You are not lying, but someone else is. Someone who is poised to destroy both you and your family for her own gain. Macarius does not have time to respond. Regina, who is standing beside him, raises her arm as if to slap the elderly seneschal. Abelard deftly catches her wrist, stopping her hand right in front of his face. Her dainty hand is adorned with a massive augmetic ring topped with a thin spike dripping with venom. Sauerbach shifts his confused gaze from his wife to Abelard, then back again. The stiff arrogance has vanished from his posture. Regina, you? Mother. Upon realizing what has happened, Hedka recoils from his mother. Macarius, your bluntness makes you an open book. When I talked about helping the Gaprats, you had no idea what I was referring to. Your wife, on the other hand, her eyes started shifting like you would not believe. Regina Sauerbach, you alone betrayed the rogue trader, jeopardizing the prosperity of the von Valancius trade dynasty, and you alone are responsible for your unmasking. Regina, why would you do this? Like the spike on her ring, Regina's words are dripping with poison and rage. Because Dargonus is serving an impostor, the true heir of the Protectorate bears a different name. When Kunrad appeared on Dargonus, he paid me a visit and opened my eyes to the truth of the situation. Theodora was killed by the one whom she had so unwarily taken under her wing. Macarius is too narrow-minded to even consider opposing the rogue trader, even an illegitimate one. So I had to wait for the right moment, and the disappearance of the Lord Captain who could not have come at a better time. It was quite simple to trigger a chain of events on Dargonus so that people remembered Master Voitvier's past service. It seems that many of your subjects do not actually consider you a worthy successor. Why the Viserions? Because when stripped of the Seneschal's protection, this house is the weakest one on all of Dargonus, and they are also particularly disliked by the governor's family. It would have been easy to bury the Viserions under accusations of heresy. Who aided you? There is no way you managed all this on your own. Oh, of course I didn't. I have too many helpers to list them all. But rest assured there are plenty of them, just as there are plenty of people who follow Master Voitvier. My death will not change anything. The true rogue trader will come and take his rightful place when the time is right. Why did you kill Halen Gaprak? Halen was a good agent, but he was also a coward. He came to me just before our formidable rogue trader arrived. He was ready to confess everything. I suggested that he plead for the Emperor's forgiveness first, and he did grant him mercy, did he not? Abelard, the sentence has yet to be carried out. Finish this. Does the rogue trader condemn only the rotten apple or the entire barrel? I will not exterminate an entire noble line that is loyal to me just because of one traitor. In that case, Regina Sauerbach shall be subjected to intense interrogation followed by execution. By the order of the rogue trader, Regina Sauerbach is sentenced to death for heresy and crimes against the von Valancius trade dynasty. When the nobles disperse, sated by the bloody performance, Abelard approaches you, his steps firm. Lord Captain, you have my thanks. A rogue trader should not waste time on the matters that his servants and trustees can resolve, but in this case, your intervention was necessary, not just for the sake of my family, but for your trade dynasty as well. Regina Sauerbach, Evidently, Conrad's accomplices continue to plot against your protectorate. I fear we have not heard the last of such scoundrel. Thanks to you, Lord Captain, House Viserion is saved, although it came close to being wiped out as a result of scheming without and imprudence within. Sometimes I think about how much I could teach them. I could ensure that they survive in the future without me. What are you going to do now? I need time to reflect upon what happened and the role I played in it. I think I will be ready to resume this conversation later when we are back on board the ship. Okay, so talk to Abelard on the ship's bridge. I have to admit, I'm not sure about the resolution there. I mean, I think the overall, I mean, obviously we got the right perpetrator, but what Abelard did in watching the Sourback, what I assume he was watching Macarius, because that was how the text played out. He watched Toriana and he watched Urbend and declared them to be not guilty, but when he watched Sourback, he declared Macarius to be guilty, but then it turns out it was his wife that was guilty. So, I don't know, that just seemed a bit weird to me and didn't quite, I guess, have a logical flow to it. But I guess the rationalization is that Abelard was watching all the family members and he did notice something, even though the descriptive text didn't necessarily reflect it that way, or wasn't clear, or maybe I just misread it, but it felt to me a bit disjointed and lacked a bit of logical flow. But other than that, I think that was kind of cool. Sort of a conspiracy investigation with a bit of murder and intrigue. It's always kind of fun, I guess. So save it here and talk to Clementia and see what she has to say now. Okay, nothing else. Achilles. Is Achilles actually still here? Didn't he die? Yeah, he's dead. Okay, that's fine. No longer here. The lack of observers on this world has led your nobles to become extremely complacent. Today alone I overheard 3 statements that, if I so wanted, could be turned into grounds for a charge of heresy. Hey, fair enough. Does Abelard have anything to say here? I doubt it. No. While we're on Dargonis, I will check the secretary's reports and keep an eye on the logisticians. Master Danrock does his job well, but a little scrutiny goes a long way with him. Fair enough. Augurated tech grease. Okay. Warden. Okay. Alright, let's head outside. Okay, it looks like there's nothing else here to really do, so I might end the episode here, and then in the next episode we'll just resume from back on board the Void ship. Just, well, unless there's something else that happens on the way to getting onto the Void ship, but I don't think that would happen because I think Abelard wants us to actually talk to him rather than him initiating the conversation with us. So thanks a lot for joining me in this episode where we played detective, and I guess we got to know the noble families of our protectorate a bit better, actually, which is quite interesting. And I don't think there's been anything or any quest that in the game that's been similar to this, so I like the Alcat added in sort of incorporated a different style of side quest or whatever, well, companion quest, I guess, to the game to break up the, you know, combat and then the stereotypically Warhammer 40k style storyline. So I think that was a fun little episode, and we've cleared the Viserion line of any guilt, and we can progress on to the next adventure after we talk to Abelard on the void ship in the next episode. So thanks a lot for joining me here, and I hope you'll join me in the next episode when we talk to Abelard. See you then.